This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. With so many games released every day, and all of them trying to grab all of our free time, and us only having so much free time as it is, it can be a daunting task to try and play a lot of them. Along with that, sadly, much of modern entertainment is full of pretentious nonsense, preachy agendas, and social media checkbox stuff that when it pops up in entertainment, it can massively taint that experience, because oftentimes it just doesn't belong there. It has gotten to the point that I am extra cautious about playing new games, because I'm just wondering when the game will drop something in to ruin the experience, or at least lessen the game's quality. But thankfully we do have titles as well that come out and surprise us in being just games. What I mean by this is that they just bring the fun, embrace what this medium can do, and do it very well. I have played a handful of titles this year that have done just that, with Robocop Rogue City being one of them. This game is so much fun, and a legacy property that proves it's still relevant today, and how timeless the property is. Teon's Terminator Resistance and Robocop Rogue City respects their respective legacies, and both provide engaging gameplay experiences with enjoyable narratives. They still even know how to surprise the player well with some gameplay elements that I wasn't expecting. I knew Rogue City was going to be a shooter based on their prior game, but incorporating detective-like elements was a pleasant surprise, especially with how it all worked for the game. It worked as a means to provide an interactive way to engage the player and have impactful, quieter moments, with all of the over-the-top violence and bombastic action. Now don't get me wrong, a game solely focused just on the shooting aspect of Robocop would very much succeed and be a compelling experience. This game even proves that point with all of its action sequences. But when you incorporate the choices and investigations, it gets the player closer to the human side of Robocop and explores more areas of his being along with his occupation. What I'm getting at is that this sort of stuff furthers the efforts to provide a more complete experience, over than just being a shooter set in old Detroit. The addition of the great Peter Weller gives the game this feeling of being a true and definitive Robocop experience, and better yet, he brings everything to his voice work here. If you have seen any of the interviews that he had for the original film, you could tell the project meant a lot to him. He seemed like he loved it. This is a case too that it comes through within the performance. This is the right guy for the right role, and he still has it.
I got something for you, officer. I know where you can find a wanted criminal. That poster over there says there's a reward for that information, and I want it.
I want details.
Are you blind? I'm the guy from that poster, so here I am. Now, give me the money.
I will have to detain you.
Fine, but I still get the reward, right?
You can hope for a reduced sentence.
That's not...
Playing the game more, I really came to appreciate the open world aspects to the game more and more. This is not a large, expansive place, it's more on the smaller side of things, but dense enough to keep it engaging from a gameplay standpoint. It is just enjoyable to walk around the city, patrolling, finding situations that you can handle, or diffuse, and then having your actions play into how the public views Robocop and the ending of the game. You can choose to go more by the book, provide the people with second chances based on the situation too. Usually both options fit within the character because Robocop has a set of 3 rules to follow, and the human element comes into play when it starts to be a little bit more gray. Investigations allow for enjoyable procedural-like experiences, seeing Robocop solve a specific problem or solve a case. And again, not all of these problems are solved with your gun either. Sometimes it's done through another way, and it's just as rewarding. Returning back to the hub-like area, you can see how maybe your actions are reflected there, how people view you, and being closer with the people you're trying to protect. It's not busy work like seen in many open-world experiences, but when you're in these missions, it's something special. It's a space that feels textured and kinda real, with exploration being rewarded. There will be times where I actually missed a side quest that I didn't even know about. While I was frustrated I missed it, I'm glad the game didn't just spoon feed me this either. Robocop Rogue City is such a great game. Much like this, the developer's prior efforts with Terminator Resistance, many of the gameplay mechanics used are things that we've seen in other games. In the case of Robocop, I love the mixing of the shooting with the investigation mechanics. You get a well-rounded view and experience of this character. It shows the layered nature to Robocop while allowing the player to become closer to this iconic character that they love through different ways to interact with it. Sure, we have played first-person shooters before with violent combat, along with narrative-focused games with inspection and dialogue options, but the way everything gels and mixes well within the Robocop character and world, it fits really well together. Again, just like Terminator Resistance, I continually felt like I was experiencing something that felt consistent with what I knew of the character and everything else I enjoyed from the film. And to my point that I made at the start of my video, Robocop is not used for some preachy agenda or politics to have the writers talk down to the player and then tell them what to think. The writers also didn't try to date their game with any current day stuff. Rogue City looked, felt, and was a great interactive experience that respected a legacy. I think much of this came from having the right talent in the right place, while also having a set of writers that were looking to honor the source material and respect the fans, maybe because they were fans themselves. And for that, Rogue City stands tall among much of its competition. Teon has really carved out a space within the first-person shooter genre, now with 2 games in a row that they've really knocked out of the park. They know how to do it, and do it really well. This niche of 80s IP shooters is exactly something that I need more of. The big question is if Teon will opt to develop a sequel to Robocop, or move on to another IP. With Terminator Resistance, I know many of us would love to see them return for another entry, just because they did a great job. But Resistance sort of closes the loop between Terminator 1 and 2, and it fits really well within those movies. With Robocop, I think there's room for more sequels, if Teon would like to return to this and deepen the experience even more. Or do they want to move on to something else? Maybe Commando, Cobra, Escape from New York maybe, or maybe even work something out with Rebellion and make a Dread game. I do want to clarify that I do not want the developers to just make any 80s IP into a game. While I love many of them, I want them to select something that they feel strongly about, just like what they did with Terminator and Robocop. I want their heart to be in it, if that makes sense. And with so many modern pieces of entertainment brushing off or even not caring about what the fans think, this is a developer that clearly cares about the little guy, and the fans of each property they get involved with. So yeah, I do love the shooting within Robocop. The gunplay, punching, and tossing enemies around never gets old. But when blended with the quieter elements of the gameplay, to me at least, this was unexpected and makes it seem like how all of these elements work together well and maybe creates the definitive Robocop game so far. What other property would you like to see these guys tackle? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.